Hey guys, it's Mike here with Quick Thought. So yeah, episode 8. I gotta say, it was definitely one of the best episodes this far of the season. We didn't even get one scene with the dragon, and it was still super enjoyable. This show definitely gave us some of the most dialogue we've gotten throughout the entire season, and it was definitely much needed. That's what makes a good show in my eyes. Superb dialogue over crazy graphics. That's what literally Game of Thrones had to go off on the final seasons. Crazy graphics because it just sucked at storytelling and dialogue. It just wasn't there, right? The one thing I can say, I don't know if I'm just a psychic or really good at seeing what's coming, but that's just it. I kind of seen everything coming before it actually happened, so that was a little underwhelming. Other than that, it was a great episode. I think we all have to give a round of applause to Paddy Considine's acting and just portrayal of King Viserys in his last hours. It was just phenomenal, right? But yeah, let's go ahead and hop into this episode. So this episode opens up at Driftmark with Rhaenys sitting the Driftwood throne with her granddaughter Baela Targaryen by her side. Now, we have someone telling Rhaenys and Baela about Corlys' injuries in the Stepstone. Closely in the background, we have Vaemond creeping, just waiting for his opportunity to bring up the issue of the succession to Driftmark. Now, what's interesting about this to me is that Rhaenys and Vaemond technically believe in the same thing. Rhaenys said previously that she wanted Driftmark to pass to true Valyrian blood. Vaemond believes the same thing. He's true Valyrian blood. However, Rhaenys doesn't put too much stock into Vaemond's proposal. It could be that Baela's right there, so she can't really speak freely how she wants to. It could be that she knows that what Vaemond's saying could be literally seen as open treason, or she simply just wants to honor her husband. I was going to say her late husband, but Corlys isn't dead. He's just wounded, right? But we can't deny the fact that Vaemond speaks the truth. Even on the inside the episode, I forgot if it was Ryan Condal or Miguel Sapochnik, but they said that Vaemond's literally a guy who speaks the truth. He's an unlikable guy, but he's a guy that speaks the truth nonetheless. But who cares about the truth? Definitely not Team Black, I can tell you that. Our next scene cuts to Dragonstone with Daemon discovering a dragon's egg. And you guys tell me what you think about this, because I was a little confused. I didn't see the egg, at least, for the rest of the episode. And I know, at least I think, from the books, it's speculation that the eggs that Daenerys gets in Game of Thrones are Dreamfire's eggs, right? So that's not one of those eggs, right? Am I overthinking this? I'll have to go back and read that, but I'm almost positive. This has to be an egg that he wants for one of his sons with Rhaenyra, Aegon III, or Viserys II. We then cut back to the castle of Dragonstone, where Jace is trying to learn High Valyrian, and he's not doing that well. He doesn't do well at much things in life. He sucks. Sorry, not sorry, Jace. But then Daemon makes his entrance, and Rhaenyra and him discuss it may be time to go back to King's Landing to defend Lucerys' claim against Vaemond for Driftmark. When they get to King's Landing, Rhaenyra and Daemon are greeted with a very lackluster entrance, very much like how the Velaryons greeted King Viserys upon his arrival to Driftmark. So we're not going to put too much stock into this, like I'm sure Team Blackers would. Then we cut to a small council meeting, or should I call it a Green Council meeting, to where they're already discussing the succession of Driftmark. While Queen Alicent is going to greet Rhaenyra and Daemon, she's confronted by either Eric or Arik, I literally forget which one, about the wrongdoings of Aegon. Now here's what's bothering me about this. In the books, it's only a rumor that Aegon is some supposed raper by Mushroom, right? And that rumor is also denied by Munkin. But what's not a rumor is Princess Rhaenyra ordering Daemon to seize Vaemond, having his head removed, and feeding his carcass to her dragon Syrax. That actually happened. But nonetheless, they cut that from it. My point is, it seems like the show's going rather far on making the Greens seem like the villain and Rhaenyra seem like the good guy, giving all of her wrongdoings, or most of them, to Daemon. Rhaenyra and Daemon go to see Viserys for the first time in 6 years. Just let that sink in. But she loves her father so much, and Daemon loves his brother so much, right? But this is the first time they're seeing him in 6 years. They see how much worse his condition has gotten. But nonetheless, it's really good that Viserys got to meet his grandkids, Aegon III and Viserys II. We then see Queen Alicent with Diana, the servant girl who Aegon supposedly took advantage of. And we see Alicent give her tea, much like the tea that we see the Grand Maester give Rhaenyra in the earlier episode. You know, much like an abortion tea. Which may not be working as well as Alicent hoped, as I think on the preview for episode 9, we see a little kid that potentially may be the bastard son of Aegon II. Who knows? We'll see. Alicent then meets with Rhaenyra and Daemon, where they're just being shady as fuck and bitter as fuck because they didn't get the entrance that they felt like they deserved, and their statues and emblems are gone and yada yada yada. It's like, hey, Listen, you guys have been going for how long? 6 years now? Knowing that your dad's condition was deteriorating. But yet, you both have dragons, but you refuse to fly back to King's Landing, which is not very far from Dragonstone, consistently to check on your father and to check on your brother. So, just, let's give it a break here. Let's give the fake facade that you really care a break, right? I'm sure she cares about her dad, but she's here now because she needs something. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but another thing that ticked me off is the accusations that Alicent is just purposely having Viserys addled. Bro, no one's purposely having your dad addled. I don't know if you guys have seen anyone in their last literally dying days, but it's bad. It's painful. I've had family members in my family to die from some of the worst diseases, right? Cancer, AIDS, and they both look very similar. In their last days, they were in so much pain and agony. It was just sad to see, right? It was just almost unbearable to see. You don't want to see anyone that you love in that sort of pain. And they would have actually known the severity of his conditions if they were actually around, but they weren't. And this strictly goes for Alicent. Not even Otto and those sketchy-ass maesters. Strictly for Alicent. Because you wouldn't be able to convince me under any circumstances that Grand Maester Mellos wasn't intentionally keeping the king sick. There's no coincidence that when Argyle came, he suddenly was able to sustain a longer life. Who knows how earlier King Viserys would have died if Grand Maester Mellos was still his primary caregiver. Jace and Luke then head to the courtyard to where they grace upon their uncle who they haven't seen in years, and he literally has just outgrown them, skyrocketed over them, Aemon One Eye, and he just looks so badass. He looks so cool. You can literally see the slight envy and jealousy in Jace and Luke's eyes when they actually look at Aemon or recognize that it's him. It's so funny. Aemon then scrolls in like a tough dog and doesn't even acknowledge his would-be nephews, just walks right past them, just screw you bastards, you're no nephews of mine, and just keeps it moving, right? Now while Aemon tries to go put forth the truth that nobody wants to hear, we see Rhaenys in the courtyard, shortly greeted by Rhaenyra and her granddaughter Rhaena. Now you can definitely tell in this scene that Rhaenyra is super nervous about what Rhaenys is going to say, or more so who she's going to back once the petitions are put forth for the heir to Driftmark. Understandably so, is because Rhaenyra is under the impression that Rhaenys clearly thinks that she had her son murdered, right? And this is another secret, another lie that Rhaenyra just refuses to tell Rhaenys for whatever reason. And it's just too many secrets and lies to defend with this girl, right? It's just too much. I don't see how you Team Blackers do it. You can tell Rhaenyra's down bad. She goes to see her dad Viserys in his deathbed, if you would, and you can tell she's just down bad. She's just hey man, wake up, defend me, get your sick ass up and defend me and my children, right? You can tell she's down bad. She needs some help right here. Mind you, help with the situation that she created herself. Her dad literally gave her months, which she cut short to weeks, to choose her own husband. And she literally threw it in the ocean, right? She could have chose a straight, handsome lad to marry, and she didn't go with it. It's you made this bed, so enjoy laying in it. The next morning, we have King Viserys, and this was probably one of the hardest scenes to watch. You can just tell he was in so much pain. It was really, really bad to watch. And this is what I'm saying. Anyone who literally sets Alicent in particular, but even Otto in this instance, had some form of malicious intent behind recommending Milk of the Poppy, has clearly never seen someone in their final hours of life. It's bad. Then we have everyone gathering in the throne room to go ahead and knock out the petitions for the heir to Driftmark. Now this scene was just absolutely nuts. It's they intentionally made Vaemon overly disrespectful to the king, so no one had any room to say his killing wasn't justified, right? It's this guy had to know he was gonna die from how he just went and was so blatantly disrespectful to the king. Who was gonna let that pass? Surely not Daemon, right? So he just sliced Vaemon's head right off in the middle of the throne room. And like I said earlier, I really don't like this change from the books simply because it just takes a lot of the ruthlessness, responsibility, and room to see Rhaenyra in any light but a positive one. In the books, Rhaenyra literally has Vaemon fed to her dragon Syrax, while the King Viserys has 5 of Vaemon's younger cousins' tongues removed for repeating the rumors about Rhaenyra's kids. The king is then struck by some really painful final hour symptoms, and Alicent helps him off the throne, and he tells Alicent that, hey, I want to keep a clear mind. I really do respect Viserys' strength. I don't respect the cause in which he's defending because it just causes so much BS. But right now in this moment, you can't help but to admire the man's strength, right? He's a fucking fighter. We then cut to the infamous dinner that King Viserys asked Sir Otto to put together in his name. So the dinner starts off lovely. It goes really good. We have Rhaenyra, she makes a toast to Alicent, and Alicent makes a toast back. You really get a sense of the girls when they were younger, right? When they were actually friends. And honestly, it was a decent feeling, and everything could have stayed this way if some people just could have been honest, right? And could have just done their duty, and yeah. You have Aegon II trying to crack jokes with his nephew Jace, but he's just been a little punk. It's very sensitive. Like, lighten up, Jace. You're not the one who got your eye taken out as a kid, right? Aegon gets over Jace being a standoffish, sensitive prick and literally tries to get under his skin now, you know? Now that he sees Jace is just being standoffish, it's just weird when Viserys called all of his family together and they're still just being weird. So Aegon says to his cousin Baela, who's betrothed to Jace, that, hey, whenever you want some true satisfaction from a man, his chambers aren't that far, baby. So Jace really doesn't take this good at all, so that really gets under his skin. Like everything gets under Jace's skin, he's just a sensitive fuck. But nonetheless, I think it was awesome that, at least from Viserys' perspective, in his final days, his family was happy, enjoying each other, laughing, and just having a really alright good time, right? That was really good to see. It was somewhat short-lived because shortly after, Viserys was struck by more of his final hour pains, as I like to call them, because there's no other way to describe it, right? When you're in your final hours, when you're in your final days, that pain, especially when you're dealing with a disease like what Viserys has, it just sucks. It just sucks. It's really bad. But he finds the strength to enjoy his final hours and enjoy his final days with his family. And hey man, I respect that. He's a trooper. And here's where things sort of took a left turn. So we have the not so strong boy, Lucerys Velaryon, and his betrothed Rhaena, just cracking smirks at Aemon, cracking laughs at Aemon for whatever the reason. I think the reason they were laughing was because, if you remember when they were kids, they gave Aemon a pink pig they named the Pink Dread after Balerion, the Black Dread, because Aemon was the only one of the boys who did not have a dragon at the time. And man, was that short-lived, as Aemon claimed the largest and oldest living dragon shortly after. But then we see Aemon give the final blow with the speech that's going to go down in the history books of Westeros. Final tribute to the health of my nephews, Jace, Luke, Joffrey, each of them handsome, wise, strong. Aemon. Come, let us drain our cups to these 3 strong boys. I dare you to say that again. Why? 'Twas only a compliment. Do you not think yourself strong? And just like that, guys, Aemon One Eye Targaryen goes down in the history books of Westeros for having one of the most shadiest dinner speeches in the history of Westeros. So Aemon and Aegon literally school Jace and Luke. Jace throws the strongest punch he can muster, and it literally does nothing to Aemon. Luke is busy getting his head smashed into the table. Someone needs to train these kids. Like, who's training Rhaenyra's kids how to fight? Like, these kids cannot fight at all. Like, it's so bad. Like, literally, they're only a couple of years apart. And the Targaryen brothers of the Green faction, they're literally just shitting on them. It's so bad. Then we cut to Lady Misery being sketchy as fuck. But it seems like she's doing rather well for herself, right? She looks good. The villa in which she's living in is super freaking nice. I would definitely live in a villa like that. But yeah, guys, tell me what was going on in this scene. So we see Lady Misery with Tala, the same maiden that helps Alicent. She's also the same maiden that brought the servant girl who was supposedly taken advantage of by Aegon. So yeah, what's going on here? I know they're working together somehow, but my brain can't possibly figure out what the hell's going on. And last but not least, we have Alicent by Viserys during his last hours. Alicent soothes her husband's pain for the last time. During his final words, King Viserys seems to be explaining to Alicent about the dream that Aegon had before conquering Westeros. Alicent takes this as a sign, and understandably so, that her passing husband wants their eldest son, Aegon II, to ascend the throne after him. Some Team Blackers are already saying that Alicent purposely misinterpreted Viserys in his last hours, and or, regardless of what, the Greens were going to usurp the throne regardless, right? This again sounds like people who've never been around someone in their last days. It's said when people are in their final hours, sometimes they have prosthetic visions or dreams, or even strong feelings that come to them during their last hours. Viserys chose to spend his last hours with his wife Alicent, not Daemon or Rhaenyra, so it's very much possible that Alicent is under the impression that he was trying to
tell her something. Get something off of his chest, if you would. Regardless of if it made sense to her or not, a lot of things don't make sense when people are in their last hours. Nonetheless, you interpret their message as best as you can, and you move accordingly, right? And Alicent did just that, in what she believed to be her passing husband's wish, placing their eldest son, Aegon II, on the throne. And last but not least, on the notation that the Greens were going to usurp the throne regardless. Listen, we light the way, and the path in which we lit still holds precedent today.
Legitimate male blood rights.
So if not the Greens, you better know another house was definitely going to push forth the claim backed by hundreds of years of set precedent and tradition.
Aegon II and Aegon III are the epitome of the exact thing that the Greens were fighting for. Legitimate male blood rights. And that's exactly what followed. I told you guys, we light the way.
So you can get with it or get lost.
Well, that's all I got for you guys on this video. Help me reach my first goal here on YouTube of 1,000 subscribers. Be sure to like and comment on the video, and I'll catch you guys on my next one. Later, and peace out.